Hello and welcome, everyone. And thank you so much for giving up your valuable time today. I believe the opportunity to share ideas with teachers all over the world actually makes us better teachers. So thank you for being here. And just to let you know, today's session will be interactive. So to start with, would you kindly write down in the chat which country you're from, and maybe one musical or teaching fact about you. My fact is that I teach 50 students a week in about 8 hours a week over 3 days, and 7 out of my 8 classes of group piano are currently working on grades 2 to grade 8. So I'd love you to write down what country you're from and what your interesting musical teaching fact about you. And just while you're doing that, I'd just like to quickly introduce myself. My name is Paul Myatt, and I've been teaching piano since the 80s in the last century. And of course, I'm sure, like many of you, a lot of my students have completed music exams. In fact, last year, one of my students achieved 98% in his grade 8 exam. And this year, he commenced studying at the Sydney Conservatorium. I do actually live in Sydney, but before COVID, as a director of education with Piano Teaching Success, I used to teach whole body learning exam courses live on ABRS, Trinity College, AMEB, and Rock School. They were live and in person, and I taught them in the UK, in Asia, and in Australia. I'm also the co-founder of Forte School of Music, which pioneered the whole body learning teaching approach for the last 28 years. And Forte now has around 8,000 students in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and has just opened in the USA. So Emma's here from the UK, and she teaches 25 students aged from 4 to adults. So please put your name in. I can see Michelle's here, and Viv is here. So please share where you're from, what city or what country you're from. So today, I'd like to give you 3 takeaway ideas to get your students ready for exams. I like to call these ideas the 3 M's of successful teaching. And it's what whole body learning is all about. Just before we go on to the 3 M's, we've got Viv from UK as well, and teaching for 4 years and 34 pupils. Wow, only in 4 years. That's brilliant. Congratulations. So those 3 M's. And the first one is to use a multi-sensory approach to learning. So that would be teaching piano. So with teaching piano, that would be visual, auditory, and kinesthetic senses. The senses of taste and smell aren't particularly useful for piano lessons. We will also want to use a multimodal approach. And so this is a multimodal approach. Means multiple modes of learning. And you can see the number 1 approach up there is the one that we all know, the traditional read, then play at the piano approach, which many of us had when we were children. Number 2 is the second instrument, to play along with your student. Explore different sounds if it's a digital piano. Get your students to move between the instruments, or even create 2 piano arrangements or ensembles. And number 3 is an area for the off-the-bench activities, which might include movement and singing. Number 4 is for incorporating percussion instruments. And you can see there that there's a place for all the percussion instruments to be stored in the studio. And number 5 is a place to sit at a desk and use a computer for notating in a school program, or theory lessons, or games, or maybe just using the desk to write some music by hand. I still think kids need to write because writing stimulates a different part of their brain rather than always using computers and iPads. And the third M of our 3 M's is to use music in your teaching. Now, this could be a YouTube clip, an audio recording, or my favorite and the most useful is a specially recorded backing track of the piece, which has an introduction to prepare the student for playing and has been written in the style of the composer. It has the sheet music for the student to follow. And maybe I can give you an example. And the example I'd like to give you is Burgmüller's Arabesque. I'm sure many of you know Burgmüller's Arabesque. And this is our version of Arabesque with an orchestral accompaniment. You can see the music and the little tracking line that goes along with the music. And you can speed it up and slow it down if your student needs it a bit slower. Speed it up. So those sorts of activities make learning a lot more fun and a lot more musical as well. So getting back to whole body learning. Whole body learning is based on the pedagogical philosophies of Orff and his Schulwerk, Delcros and Kadai. And with the addition of technology and the neuroscience, this approach offers teachers a strategy that scaffolds the learning to cater to all learning styles, ages, and abilities, and builds an auditory vocabulary, which is both harmonic and melodic for future development. And also it creates pathways to developing notation, understanding, and reading skills. And today I'm going to be sharing some of the examples from my new whole body learning course for ABRSM piano 2023 piano syllabus, and also my new course for Trinity College for the 2021 to 2023 syllabus. At the end of the session today, I'll share some information about those courses. So most teachers didn't learn like this, and the majority of teachers learned using a traditional read then play approach. So I was wondering, would you be able to write in the chat, please? Did you learn by a read then play approach, or did you have some multi-sensory or multimodal learning in your approach? And while you're writing that down in the chat, so did you learn with a read then play, or did you learn with some multi-sensory or multimodal approach? Maybe you even learned with a little bit of both. So while you're writing that down in the chat, I'd like to share a story. In 2018, I was part of a PhD study on the outcomes of using whole body learning techniques with children learning piano. The study concluded that creating a musical environment where recorded music or backing tracks were used while students were taught using a multisensory and multimodal approach assisted in both memory retention and developing comprehensive music skills. This means that the student's brain is able to process memories more effectively. to put them in the right place for better recall. Now, we know that that helps at home when students need to practice, because when they remember how to do it, that helps an awful lot when they're practicing. And getting kids to practice is one of the greatest challenges for most teachers. So let's check. Well, everyone that's responded, Maggie, Viv, and Emma, and you're welcome to keep responding. Everyone had very much a read, then play or approach. Michelle said read and play as well. Well, before we go any further, I'd like to share an example of a whole body learning activity for March Hare from the current grade 2 ABRSM syllabus. So just put up your hand if you've taught March Hare from the grade 2 syllabus. It's a very, very popular one. In whole body learning courses, we have our own private Facebook group where all participants share videos of themselves teaching or presenting their whole body learning homework activities. And as we know, if you want to learn how to do something, the best way to learn it is to do it. And after all, you can't learn the piano by reading a book. You've actually got to go and play the notes. So while some teachers are a little bit nervous to start with, they know that there's nothing that they can do that's incorrect. It's all good learning. And as I always say to my piano students, if you're going to make a mistake, make it a really, really good one. So the Facebook group then becomes this amazing library with a treasure trove of teaching ideas and strategies that all course participants have contributed to. And you know, I'm always blown away by the creative ideas that teachers come up with. And every course participant has the opportunity to try these brilliant ideas out with their students. Singaporean piano teacher Dorothy Chia is a very experienced teacher and holds a Masters of Music in Pedagogy. She took a leap of faith and participated in the whole body learning course for ABRSM exams last year. The clip I'm going to share is an interview Dorothy did with Gillian Erskine from the Q&A program, and it's about her whole body learning experience and includes one of Dorothy's homework activities from last year's course. The parents of Dorothy's student generously permitted her to share this video of her teaching their daughter, and I'll show you the student's exam report after this clip.
Found that using the whole body learning method has done with my studio. The students listen better, they are more engaged, and they are excited about their music. So even though it's exam pieces, they are excited to go home and practice, and they have the, like you said, the tune in their head, and the body movement really integrated it all for them. So when it comes to the approach to the music, it's already half the job done.
We're going to look at a whole body learning piece that you did for a piece, which I think is an absolutely sensational piece, I have to say, called March Hare. It's by Brian Chappell.
2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, ready, go. March Hare is rolling, March Hare is rolling, right hand is rolling, left hand is rolling, March Hare is rolling, March Hare is rolling, right hand is rolling, left hand is rolling, March Hare is rolling, March Hare is rolling, March Hare is rolling. Oh, he is running slowly, he is running slowly, he is running slowly, running slowly. Boom! It's rolling, left hand is rolling,
March Hare
is rolling.
March Hare is rolling. Where did you get the words of the song?
I make it up. Yeah, original. Okay, so we said that the interval in our left hand is a fifth. Can you find the 2 notes in your left hand? No, on the piano. You told me just now. No, wrong place. And right, squeeze the hand. So going to say the word, you're going to put it. So it's on much hair is rolling, much hair is rolling with. Okay, then this one, shift your one to this note. What note is that?
G.
Third space down is C. C go up is
D.
Alright, next note, move. Alright, so think, line note to space note. What interval is this? Is it second, fourth, or 2, 4, 6? Is it 2, 4, or 6? You have to count.
Fourth.
Fourth, alright, so we're going to start again. This time say with me. Much hair is rolling, much hair is rolling. Wait. You start from the finger 1. Alright, we'll do it one more time. Get ready. Much hair is rolling, much hair is rolling. Wait. Okay, shift your thumb back to this note. This is the same as where we started just now. What note?
E.
E. Alright, so same thing, we're going to go. Much hair is rolling, much hair is rolling, much hair is rolling. Wait. Alright, then we're going to your right there, you don't need to move. So here, late, late, then we are running so late. We are running so late. We are running so late. Last time is boom. Yes, okay. 4, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Much hair is rolling, much hair is rolling. Wait. Move the hand. Start on finger 1. Much hair is rolling, much hair is rolling. Wait. Move the hand back to E. Put finger 1. Much hair is rolling, much hair is rolling, much hair is rolling. Oh, we are running so late.
We are running
So
so
late.
We are running
So late.
We
Are running so late. Boom. Nice.
What were some of the kind of the differences that you might have noticed?
Okay, definitely the engagement level went up, and the students were listening to themselves and listening for their own playing as well as the backing track. And so it was better listening, better grasp of rhythm and timing, and feeling the pulse of the music. So even complicated rhythms was able to be addressed real quickly without frustration. And I think the student had fun at the
Yes.
lesson. And one of the biggest help that the students the parents can see is that the students benefited because they were having fun, and therefore they went home and practiced the piece without being nagged at. Yeah.
No.
And of course with students that practice and work on the piece, the teacher, the parent, and then the results, everything all went up. So we all are very happy with the outcome of whole body learning in the studio.
Well, this is that little girl's report. And as you can see, she achieved a distinction. And if you have a look at Brian Chappell's March Hare, she actually got full marks for that piece, which is brilliant. I thought that was just fabulous. So I thought one of the things that we could look at and how these relate to whole body learning is the marking criteria. Now, I've chosen to use the ABRSM marking criteria, but all the exam boards have a very similar marking criteria, whether it's AMEB, Trinity College, Royal Conservatory of Music, or Trinity ABRSM. They're all very similar. So the first one is pitch. And obviously for piano, it's for playing the correct notes, and we don't have to worry about intonation, thankfully, on the piano. So in terms of whole body learning, when the ear has been developed alongside the eye, students can hear when they are playing incorrect notes. And This helps a lot when they're practicing at home so they don't practice in mistakes. The next one is time and or timing and fluent. They want fluency with the flexibility where appropriate, and the rhythmic character to be well conveyed. And from a whole body learning approach, teaching movement and singing along with backing tracks, because backing tracks help prepare and orient the body for playing. And this ensures correct rhythm, and the students can hear and experience the character of the piece before they actually get to the piano. So through the track, they're actually going to hear all of the things that they need to know about rhythmically in the piece. And shortly, I'm going to play for you a couple of the 2023 tracks from the new ABRSM syllabus as well. And using backing tracks is just like a musical metronome, but it also includes the fluency and the flexibility required for the piece. So the rits, the tempos, the accelerandos. And I always get my students to listen to piano recordings of a piece, but the fun and the musical understanding often comes from the backing tracks. And adding backing tracks to your teaching is a bit like going from black and white to TV to color. And for those of you who aren't old enough to remember black and white TV, look it up on YouTube. So the next part or section that is looked at in terms of the exam is tone, that the student has a well-projected and sensitive use of tonal qualities. Now, tone is often very difficult due to the type of instrument a student has at home, in your studio, or of course, in the exam room. But I believe tonal quality can be improved through the use of movement, preparation for playing staccato and legato playing. Next, we have shape, expressive, idiomatic, musical shaping and detail. Movement, saying or singing and playing along with backing tracks helps students develop an ear and feel for the expressive, idiomatic musical shape, as well as the detail. So they can learn so much more effectively when they're learning these things auditorily. And finally, performance. An assured performance, fully committed, with vivid communication of character and style. Well, when students practice with backing tracks, as I said, it's like a metronome. They can't stop, and that backing track embeds the style, character, and tempo in the student's body. And for many students, they will play the backing track along in their mind while they play a solo. But one of the questions I'm often asked by teachers is, do students find it difficult to play without the backing tracks? Now, I've been teaching piano, as I mentioned, since the 1980s, and I can safely say that I have never, ever had a problem with that. And I can't tell you how many students I've put through piano exams since then. So now I'd like to share a video of one of my classes performing a Trinity College grade 3 piece called Badlands. This song has been so popular with my students. It was actually in the previous syllabus, and it got extended into the 21 to 23 syllabus. Now you can see in this video how we start with a whole body learning activity, which is called listening with purpose. And then it moves through onto the performance of the piece in the video. Let me share that with you. So you can see there, all those students are playing exactly together, and they've really been able to take in the basis of the rhythmic structure and also all the articulation required for that particular piece. And they've done that through that activity that they started with, which was the movement activity. And that is called listening with purpose. So we're going to take a look in detail at one of the pieces from the new ABRSM 2023 syllabus. It's a List A piece, number 2 from the Grade 1 book called Dragonflies by Marjorie Hellier. In whole body learning, we start with listening with purpose. And whilst your students are purposefully listening, they will use the tools of exploring, singing, moving, playing, or improvising. And with these tools, they're going to explore the concepts from the piece being taught, which may be rhythmic patterns, pitch contour, dynamic difference, structure, phrasing, harmony, style, texture, articulation, tonality, notation, tempo, or meter and pulse. So we're going to try this out for Dragonflies. Now, this is the actual piece, and we're going to start out with a listening with purpose activity. And let me just get this music up for you. Allegretto dragonflies fly by. Allegretto dragonflies fly by. See him flying by, see her flying high. See them on the lake near the greenwood trees. You'll see him flying by, see her flying high. There they go up to the sky. Allegretto dragonflies fly by. Allegretto dragonflies fly by. So we're going to re-watch that in a moment. But if you have a look here, so we've got Allegretto dragonflies fly by, and it gets repeated. And then we have a middle section, see her flying high, see him flying by, see her flying high, see them on the lake near the greenwood trees, you'll see him flying by, and it repeats again. And then we go back to Allegretto dragonflies. So whilst I play it again, what I would like you to do is to write in the chat all the things that you think that a student would learn from doing this activity. Allegretto dragonflies fly by. Allegretto dragonflies fly by. See him flying by, see her flying high. See them on the lake near the greenwood trees. You'll see him flying by, see her flying high. There they go up to the sky. Allegretto dragonflies fly by. Allegretto dragonflies fly by. All right. So Michelle's written, noticing repeated patterns. Yes, repeated phrases. The ABA structure. Yes, Claire. The other thing that we're doing is we're feeling that 3-beat feel at the start by in the feet, and then the accompaniment pattern that you can see in the music in the right hand there. So da 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 ba ba dum bum ba da dum ba ba dum. So the little claps with the after the feet, and then in the middle section, we've got that left, left, right, 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 left, left, right, right, right. So you can see that those in the music, why you would do those activities. So after we've done that activity, stage 2 is along with the practice buddy, or what we call our practice buddy backing track, and it might be at practice speed or concert speed, or at the speed the student can play, is to play the main motive. The Allegretto dragonfly flies by. So let me share that with you. Allegretto dragonflies fly by. Allegretto dragonflies fly by. See her flying by, see her flying high. See them on the lake and near the greenwood trees. You'll see them flying by, see her flying high. There they go up to the sky. Allegretto dragonflies fly by. Allegretto dragonflies fly by. So you can see in that example that the students' hands are moving forward and playing and then tapping the top of the piano. Those sorts of activities are really great for students because they help orientate them very, very quickly to find notes on the piano. And this is at a grade 1 level. And often, I don't know about you, but I still have sometimes my students still trying to orientate themselves to the right place on the piano. And this is a really great way of doing this. And they're just playing one little section. After they've, you might have noticed some music running across the top. That is what's called a fast track skeleton. And a fast track skeleton is a little bit of an easier version of the piece, and it only has the parts that are important for the student to play. So it makes reading and learning to read so much more effective. And then, of course, we need the music, and every student should have a copy of the exam book, whether it be Trinity College or ABRSM or whatever exam book. They should have their own copy of the book. And then you can make a copy of the page that you can then write on. So you can see here, I've added colors. So that lighter yellow is for the first part of the phrase, and the darker yellow is for the second part of the phrase. There's only one note difference. And I would ask the student to try and find what's different in that. And then I would get them to mark it again. So this is a visual representation that they can start to look and remember the score. You could even highlight those notes and follow the notes down, that would be another great way of doing that. And then once they've done the A section, you might like to look at the B section. And so I would initially ask them to find bars 9 and 10, and then get them to try and work out the music and say, well, what were the words that we were saying for that? And then I would invite them to try and find those bars, if those bars are repeated. And of course they are in bars 13 and 14. And then mark them with the same color. Obviously identifying the notes that are being used and they're playing across the hands. And so these are strategies that are really easy, and you can see how quickly you can break down a piece like this to be very simple for your student to learn. You want to play all those little parts in the with the practice buddy or the backing track, and adjust the speed so that they can then play it up to concert speed as required. And then they'll know all those little parts that they can then put together. And of course, the next stage is to teach the remaining bars, which your student will have heard many times by now. And sometimes you'll find that students will work these bars out by themselves. I've had students come into lessons saying, oh, Mr. Paul, I can play the whole song hands together. And they're that excited that they actually worked it out themselves. And that's what I want to do. My goal is to teach myself out of a job so that my students are actually able to teach themselves. And then we want to move on to stage 5, which is performance practice. Now let's have a look at that whole overview. So we start right on the side there with listing with purpose. And then we're going to chunk the patterns down, and we use what we call a fast track skeleton. We then need to practice with the backing tracks, and we're adding one building block at a time. And of course, what happens when students learn like this is they memorize very, very easily, which is fantastic. And so it helps them be ready for performance. Once they can memorize, I want them to be able to start looking at the music. So I get my students to play, to read the music and play without looking at their fingers. And then I'll say, stop. And they have to tell me where they are in the music. So they have to be reading the music as well. So it's a really great way to get them actually reading and identifying the music. And lastly, in whole body learning, we have the creative extension. Now, I wanted to share a very quick story about one of my students who was doing a grade 3 Trinity College exam, and she was playing that little Tchaikovsky dance, The Sugar Plum Fairy, and playing it beautifully in E minor. And then she came in one week and said, Mr. Paul, I can play it in A minor. And the next week she came in and said, Mr. Paul, I can play it in G minor. And then the next week she came in and said, Mr. Paul, I can play it in F minor. And then she did the exam and she couldn't remember which minor key she was supposed to play in. So I highly recommend not to do any extension or creative activities on exam pieces until after the exam. But then I would encourage you to do heaps of them. So I'd like to share one more example of a piece from the current syllabus for grade 2. It's the Ecossaise in G by Hassler. And this is Davelyn Sindley sharing her experience of whole body learning with one of her students doing this. Let me just bring this up to share with you.
He was so focused.
Yes, because he often rush for these please. So I challenged him to try to do that activity slower.
Shoulders clap, shoulders clap, shoulders clap, shoulders clap, shoulders clap, tap, clap, tap, still clap, tap, clap, shoulders, shoulders clap, shoulders clap, good, shoulders clap, shoulder, 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 shoulder clap, 4 times and hold. Next one, shoulder again. Shoulder clap, tap, clap, tap, shoulder, 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 clap, shoulder, shoulder, clap, tap, clap, tap, shoulder, 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 clap, shoulder, shoulder, clap, same, good, shoulder, 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 clap, 4 times and hold. Repeat.
He has this habit of rushing through all his pieces. He's too excited.
And has he gone on to play that, hands together?
Yeah, he passed his exam with distinction. So
Oh,
I'm
not
really
just
happy.
passed his exam.
Yeah, 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 with distinction. I'm happy
Wow.
as well.
Would he normally have had a distinction?
But he got a merit before, but then after that, this grade, he got a distinction.
Oh, he must be thrilled.
He is.
Oh, that is so lovely.
All right. So just before we finish today, I wanted to remind you of the 3 takeaways for today. And these are the 3 M's. We've got multisensory, multimodal, and using music to learn. So those are the 3 M's, and I hope you take those away today. So as I mentioned, we have a set of courses coming up, and I'm about to open the ABRSM course for anyone tonight, or the Trinity College course for anyone tonight. These courses are both 5 weeks long, and they cover initial through to grade 4, and they're 2 hours each week plus your homework. So your certificate in terms of hours for professional development will show more than 10 because you get extra hours for your homework. You'll get access to all of these tracks and lesson guides and learn how to create your own as well over the 5 weeks. And if you sign up for the course in the next 36 hours, then we have a special for you because you've attended this session, and it's 20% off the price. So you can use the exams save 20 off the price. And the courses all start in next week. So if you are interested in those courses, if you're in the studio, which I know Michelle is, and I look forward to seeing Michelle because she gets it for free. So, because she's a studio member. So I'll just show you where you can go to find out about the course. There's the information, and you can go to that page, and there's a little video about the course, and you can see what is whole body learning and all the details of the courses. We have courses on Monday for ABRSM and also Thursday evening for Asia. It's at 8 p.m. in Hong Kong, Singapore, or Malaysia. And you can also see course graduates sharing their stories, a little bit about myself, some of the articles that I've written, and you can register and see what other teachers have talked about. So thank you so much for being with me today. Does anyone have any questions before we finish up today? No, fantastic. Well, I look forward to hopefully seeing you in one of our new courses, and I will see you soon. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for coming.